Have you ever met an Israeli Jew who speaks Tagalog better than some Filipinos? It sounds shocking, right? You might be thinking, how could that even be possible? But this story is real, and once you know the reason, your heart might ache with surprise, pride, and emotion. Many people have no idea that thousands of Israelis not only learn Tagalog, but truly fall in love with it. Yes, they even teach it to their children from a very young age. But why? What is the hidden story behind this deep connection between two countries that seem so far apart? Imagine this, an Israeli parent cooking dinner while softly saying Mahal Kita to their child. A child in Tel Aviv or Haifa speaking fluent Tagalog like they were born in the Philippines. It sounds almost magical, but it's happening right now. But this isn't just about a language. It's about history, kindness, humanity, and a friendship that was quietly built over time. During a time of great need, the Philippines opened its heart and arms to Jewish refugees, and now many in Israel remember this kindness not with words, but through language, love, and deep respect. Did you know that in cities like Tel Aviv, Haifa, and even near Jerusalem, more Israeli children are speaking Tagalog every day? This isn't a coincidence. It's a living reminder of a bond that crosses borders. Language can do what no walls, laws, or borders can ever do. It connects hearts. So when a whole nation begins to speak your language, they're not just learning, they are honoring, appreciating, and saying thank you in the most beautiful way. Aren't you proud to be Filipino right now? Why would an Israeli child call their Filipino mother Nanay before they even say Abba, father? Why, during Hanukkah, would you hear soft Filipino lullabies playing inside Jewish homes? And how is it even possible that Tagalog is not just taught in Israeli schools, but even written in love letters between couples from two different worlds? It sounds unreal, almost like a story made up, but it's all true. These touching moments are now happening everywhere, from the busy streets of Tel Aviv to the peaceful neighborhoods of Haifa. And when you see so many of these stories, you can't help but ask, why is this happening? Is there something deeper, something beautiful, quietly growing between these two nations? Let's look at 3 powerful reasons why more and more Israelis are now learning Filipino, and not just as a second language, but as a language of the heart. 1. Where did it all begin? What's the real reason that Israelis began learning Filipino in the first place? Was it just for work? No. It started with kindness, sacrifice, and deep respect. Many Filipinos came to Israel to work as caregivers, giving love and care to the elderly, the sick, and even children. Over time, they became part of the family, not just workers, but mothers, aunts, and second parents. The language followed naturally because love speaks louder than anything. 2. When did Tagalog become a family language in Israel? One day, it was just spoken at work. The next, it was being whispered at bedtime, sung during birthdays, or said during family dinners. Filipino caregivers gave so much of their heart that many Israeli families began to treat Tagalog as a language of love, comfort, and safety. For some Israeli children, their first songs were Filipino lullabies. Their first jokes were in Tagalog. That's not just language. 3. What connects the two? Love, faith, and gratitude. It's not only about jobs, it's about human connection. Israelis haven't forgotten how the Philippines once opened its doors to Jewish refugees when few others did. That act of kindness, even decades ago, still lives on. Today, many Israelis return that love by welcoming Filipinos into their homes, learning their language, and even passing it on to their kids. That's not just friendship, that's something holy. So now when you hear a Filipino word spoken by an Israeli child, or a Jewish father singing a Tagalog song to his baby, don't be shocked. Be moved. Because behind every word is a story of love, sacrifice, and a bond that's stronger than borders. Doesn't that make you feel proud to be Filipino, or inspired to believe that even in this world full of differences, language can build a bridge of love? Let's go back to the very beginning, the moment where all these emotional and unexpected stories truly started. Point 1. It all began with one brave vote. It was the year 1947. The world was still healing after the terrible pain of World War II. Countries were scared, people were divided, many nations were afraid to take a stand. But during this time of fear and silence, one small country stood tall, the Philippines. At the United Nations, a very important question was asked. Should the world allow the Jewish people to have their own country after all they had suffered? This was called Resolution 1A1, and it wasn't just some boring vote. It was a huge moment of courage, of kindness, and of doing what's right, even if it meant losing something. Out of 33 countries that said yes to help create the future nation of Israel, there was only one Asian country that gave a brave vote: the Philippines. Now ask yourself why. Nobody forced the Philippines. There was no big reward, no money, no political favors, no powerful countries whispering in their ears. They simply did it because it was the right thing to do. They saw a people in need, a people who had lost so much, and chose to stand with them when it truly mattered. That one vote, given with honesty and heart, changed the future. And today, that vote is remembered with deep love and respect by many Jewish families across Israel. Isn't it shocking how a single yes from a small country decades ago could grow into such a strong friendship, one that now lives in lullabies, laughter, and even Tagalog words spoken by Israeli children? Sometimes, history is not made by power, but by pure courage and compassion. But in that moment, the Philippines chose kindness instead of silence. While others turned away, they stood beside a people who had just survived something truly heartbreaking: the Holocaust. Millions of Jews had been killed, and the world was still in shock. But the Philippines didn't ignore their pain. They chose compassion. With one brave vote, the Philippines wrote its name in history not as a powerful country, but as a country with a big heart. That single act wasn't just politics, it was the first seed of a friendship that would one day cross oceans and last for generations. Back then, Israel was just starting out, a new nation struggling to survive in the middle of conflict. But they never forgot who helped them when they were most alone. To this day, in the hearts of the Israeli people, the Philippines isn't just a faraway country in Southeast Asia. It's remembered as a first friend, someone who reached out in their darkest hour. Years passed, Israel became stronger, but then a new need came as their people grew older. They needed caregivers, helpers, and nannies. And when they looked for people to fill these roles, they didn't choose randomly. They chose Filipinos, not just because of skill, not just because of hard work, but because of memory, because of gratitude, and because of trust. In the eyes of many Israelis, Filipinos don't just work, they give from the heart. A heart that listens, a heart that comforts, a heart that once stood up and said yes when the world stayed silent. Isn't it deeply moving? One kind vote, one moment of courage has led to a bond that still brings warmth, care, and love between two completely different nations, even after more than 75 years. When the rest of the world stayed silent and unsure, the Philippines acted with courage. And from that single moment of bravery in 1947, a new story began, not one of war or money, but of something deeper: trust and human connection. That connection slowly grew into something beautiful, and it wasn't built with politics or promises. It was built with love and kindness, one human heart at a time. Point 2, Filipina yayas, not just maids, but homes. Did you know there are Israeli children who fall asleep to Filipino lullabies like Bahay Kubo? Some grew up with the smell of adobo filling their kitchens. Shocking, right? But it's true. After the Philippines bravely supported Israel in 1947, it took years before that act of kindness turned into real, everyday relationships. In the 1970s, Israel began facing a serious problem. Many of their elderly needed care. The population was getting older and there weren't enough hands to help. Then came a quiet wave from the east. Filipino women, mothers, sisters, daughters began arriving in Israel. They left behind their own families, their own children to care for strangers. But they didn't just come with luggage, they came with love, they came with songs, with patience, with deep devotion. They brought Filipino warmth to cold homes. At first, Israelis called them maids or helpers, but something began to change. As time passed, these women became more than workers, they became family. Children started calling them Yaya, Nana, Teta, Ata, names full of love and respect. Because they weren't just there to clean or cook. They were there to listen to bedtime stories, wipe tears, give hugs, and teach kindness. And slowly, something magical happened. The homes of Israel began to feel like homes in the Philippines. Isn't it powerful? A woman leaves her home in sadness, only to become the heart of another family far away, not just a helper, a second mother, a real part of someone's childhood. How many people can say they've changed someone's life like that? They didn't just cook meals, they gave comfort like family. They didn't just sweep floors, they shared memories of their childhood homes. They didn't just work for money, they stayed awake through the night, worried and watching over a sick grandfather, holding his hand like he was their own. And then, something beautiful, something unexpected happened. Israeli children began to speak Tagalog as if it were their first language. They said masarap instead of tovmeod when food tasted good. They said opo before they ever learned to say ken. They'd eat pandesal in the morning and schnitzel for lunch, then fall asleep at night listening to stories not about fairies, but about Aswang, Tikbalang, and life in faraway islands. To them, these women weren't workers, they were second grandmothers. And all of this happened quietly. No cameras, no headlines, no promises, just love lived out every single day. Inside those Israeli homes, Tagalog wasn't just heard, it was felt. Felt in the flavor of home-cooked food, in the sound of lullabies, in the gentle voice whispering bedtime prayers. Can you imagine? In the heart of a modern Jewish country, Tagalog lived on, not because of books or language schools, but because two hearts shared one life. And over time, the Israeli people began to see it too. This wasn't just language. It was loyalty. It was care. It was home. They weren't just hiring someone to help around the house. They were inviting warmth, kindness, and family into their homes. There was no contract that said she will teach your child how to care, how to respect others, how to smile through sadness, and how to sing softly when their real mom is away. But it still happened, quietly and beautifully. Point 3. To love is to learn. Have you ever seen an Israeli man write Mahal Kita with shaky hands just to see his wife smile? People say love doesn't need words, but when the love is real, people will do anything, even learn a new language just to make their loved one feel seen and understood. In Israel today, there are thousands of these unexpected love stories. The husband speaks Hebrew, eats matzah, and keeps Shabbat. The wife speaks Tagalog, prays in church, and cooks Noche Buena every Christmas. Where did they meet? Not in fairy tales, not on dating apps. They met in hospital rooms, in church halls, in nursing homes, at community events, ordinary places where life happens. It all began with a curious look. Then came the small greetings. Then a shy handshake. And slowly long talks in broken English, a language neither fully owned but both tried to use because the heart wanted to speak. And through those conversations, something rare and beautiful grew. Not just a love story, but a bridge between two worlds, a bridge built on language, faith, and a deep human need to belong. Isn't that amazing? How two people from different sides of the world could find each other just because one heart was willing to listen, even in a language they didn't know. At first, they were from two very different worlds, but slowly, two hearts began to beat in the same rhythm. One heart was drawn to the gentleness, the deep respect for elders, and the quiet faith of the Filipino woman. The other admired the Israeli man's kindness, his honesty, and his deep gratitude. So they decided to step into each other's worlds, not just with hugs and smiles, but with something deeper, language. The Israeli husband began to ask, "Why do you call your mother Nan? What does alaga mean? And how do I say I love you so that it feels real, like it comes from my heart?" The Filipino wife didn't laugh or rush him. She smiled gently, like only a woman in love can, and began to teach him, word by word, phrase by phrase. Not with pressure, not with rules, but with patience, with warmth, and with joy. Learning became their own little love game. Then one day, something unexpected and magical happened. On her birthday, he handed her a card. Inside, he had written, "Maligayang Karawan, Mahakong Asawa." Happy birthday, my dear wife. Yes, the grammar wasn't perfect. Yes, the accent was a little off, but the love? That part was perfectly clear. And tears filled her eyes, not because the words were wrong, but because his heart was so right. In homes like theirs, Tagalog doesn't stay just the wife's language. It becomes the language of love, spoken in the way a husband whispers to his wife, and in the way children grow up hearing lullabies like Sa Ugoy Nondian right before bedtime. These children eat latkes and pancit on the same table. They celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas with equal wonder. They say I love you in Hebrew one day and in Tagalog the next. This isn't just language. This is home, family, and love woven together from two hearts that dared to understand each other. They grow up with two languages, two cultures, and yet they don't feel confused, not at all. To them, this mix isn't strange, it's simply home, it's family. When a child calls Lola and then turns around and says Saba, it's not a clash of words. It's a beautiful harmony, like two songs that somehow fit perfectly together. You see, no school can teach you how to love someone in another language. You can learn grammar, you can learn pronunciation, but love teaches something else. Love teaches you to listen with your heart, to remember the little words, to say them not perfectly, but with feeling, just so the person you love feels seen, heard, and valued. So what happens when a whole nation begins to learn your language, not because they have to, but because they want to, because they care? Remember the question, why do Israelis learn Filipino so quickly? Here is the real answer. It's not in schools. It's not in books. It's not in night classes. It's found at the dinner table. When a Filipino wife says, "Kain na tayo," let's eat, and her Israeli husband smiles because he knows she's not just inviting him to eat, she's inviting him to share life with her. It's found in the soft songs of a yaya, when an Israeli child hears Tagalog lullabies and learns kindness, calm, and comfort, not in Hebrew, but from the voice of a second mother. It's found in the deep, quiet thank you. Israel still holds in its heart, from the moment the Philippines cast that brave, compassionate vote in 1947, standing with a people who had just survived unthinkable pain. And now, without needing to make a big deal of it, without loud words or headlines, Israel gives that love back. In the smiles, the trust, the warm welcome to Filipino hearts and hands. In the way they learn not just the words, but the soul of a people who once dared to say yes when the world stayed silent. When people live together, help one another, and truly care, something beautiful happens. Language stops being just a way to talk, it becomes a precious gift. Not a gift made of money or wrapped in fancy paper, but a gift wrapped in kindness, tied with a ribbon of respect, and given with two of the sweetest words ever spoken, Salamat po. Thank you, spoken gently, with heart. For those who believe, the Bible tells us, whoever loves knows God, for God is love. The Filipino people brought that love to Israel, not through long speeches, not through preaching, but through quiet actions, through care, through sacrifice, and through unseen devotion. And the people of Israel, they didn't just say thanks and walk away. They did something even more touching. They spoke it back. They answered love with love. In a world today that often feels broken, where we hear about wars, hate, and division, this simple story between Israel and the Philippines reminds us of something so powerful it might just take your breath away. That love, faith, gratitude, and yes, even a few words in Tagalog can build bridges so strong, no war will ever tear them down. If you feel proud to be Filipino, or if someone has ever loved you in your own language, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tagalog isn't just a language, it's a way of showing love, a bond that can't be broken. It's more than just words, it's a feeling. Please don't forget to share this video with your friends so the beautiful language of Filipino love can spread even farther. If you are proud to be Filipino, leave a comment that says, Salamat Israel. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, stories full of love, culture, and the power of language, please make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video with everyone who believes in the magic of words and love.